All right, cool. Welcome back. It's week 2.
House it hanging.
Omar's in with the name. We figured the name out. Want to welcome back for, hopefully another riveting episode. So getting started. So we just checked the numbers. How many people were we up to?
We have 2 subscribers.
And how many views?
How many views? 22.
So I checked the numbers. It looks like there was like 3 or 4 people that made it to the end. So if you're watching week 2 and you hate yourself that much, congrats. And hopefully this week we set you up for some more success.
Or disappointment. You could go further down this rabbit hole.
They're already very disappointed. I'm disappointed, but it's cool. It gets easier as we go here. So if you did, hopefully you did get some of value last week. And if you didn't, go back and listen to it because it was full of it. And
if you take nothing out of it, we really blame you.
it was full of it for everybody.
Because there's better content out there.
Cool. So let's get into. So we have no structure still. We're still working through this thing. But I got a couple key points. If you want to hit on something, feel free. You just bring it out and tell it as we go. But anything you want to get into before I jump into my list?
No.
No? All right.
I bring nothing.
Awesome. Fantastic. So here we go. So so last week we did something that we told people about that was too late anyway. We did a social media marketing speaking event, right? Mm-hmm. That you were at. What are some, why don't you go over that? Give us a little bit of like what you got from it, what you were thinking about it. We had a lot of cool people on the panel, met a lot of really good people that are in the industry. But what are some, pros, cons, things like that you took from it?
The pros, anytime I go to any sort of event, any type of speaking engagement, any learning type situation, just with the transaction count that I now have under my belt, I don't go expecting to be...
Is that a humble brag? Are you trying to...
No, it's a dose of reality, because if I go, I got to make sure that my expectations are correct or else I will never learn. So if I go into something, my goal is to just simply walk away with just one thing that I'm going to benefit from, one takeaway. And to me, that's how I gauge successes of any learning type events that I go to. Now, if you're a brand new agent, that's different. It's all going to be new. But at this point, a lot of what is being spoke about in any of these type of situations, 99% of it I'm already experienced at or I've done, or it's just not new information.
So for anybody that wasn't there, what's one thing that you did take away?
So my big takeaway is making sure that there is a value to any type of social media post that you're doing. The value absolutely needs to be either educating or entertaining. There's got to be some reason that someone's going to watch it. Another piece is, and you've hit this, you were really the first person to bring this to my attention, and now, I don't know if it's Mandela effect that I'm just now seeing whispers of it.
I told everybody about it. So.
In multiple places that I look, is when anything that you're doing, there has to be an audience in mind. If you're advertising that you're a realtor, okay, if somebody needs a realtor, they may call you, but embracing a niche. It could be a niche market, it could be a niche buyer, be an expert at something so that when you are vocalizing what the services are that you offer, that you're speaking to an individual or a group of individuals. Otherwise, your advertising is just going to fall on deaf ears. And that was a big takeaway, and some successful agents that were on the panel reiterated that exact same point. So that is becoming more and more ingrained in my thoughts and intentions with any type of marketing being done.
So something I took away from it, because I was there, I was in the audience, I was kind of hearing what everybody was saying as they were going through it. A lot of really good stuff that was getting said, but there were some things that didn't get covered because it was more of like a general kind of going over. And it's hard to do that on the panels.
It is.
Because there's 8 to 9 people, and like they all have great information, but you only get so much time, and you really can't dig too deep.
You don't want to monopolize the situation.
I mean, you don't want to take the time, but you don't want to dig too deep into it. So I think one of the biggest things that like wasn't covered, and maybe if you're a new agent, this can be confusing, is there's a difference between like a social media outreach and like a cold outreach where you're trying to draw in marketing. Because in theory, like the social media one, people already know you.
Sure.
They already like you in some way, or maybe they hate follow you or whatever. Yeah. They follow you because they know you in some way. So they're already a warm audience. So the things you post don't necessarily have to capture them because they may be like, oh, I know Omar. I'm just going to watch, the Seductive House Tour. Because I'm just going to follow that because I know Omar and it's supposed to be funny and whatever, like it was. But cold outreach, if you posted that same thing to cold people, they're like, who the fuck is Omar? Like, I don't care. And like immediately just keep scrolling. So it's a completely different avenue. So like when I was going into it, I didn't know what the event was. It said social media, like advertising, marketing. It was more geared towards the warm outreach than the cold. Correct?
Yeah, I'd say so, because the majority of the people that are watching it, well, if it's Facebook usually, yes, you are catering to people that are your friends, followers, whatever you want to call it. But the platforms, TikTok is a little more broadcast to strangers than friends. Same thing with Reels on Instagram. I think the anticipated target there are people that you aren't already tethered to via followers. And I know even in my personal experience, when I post on Facebook versus Reels on Instagram or TikTok, I format things very differently because I know that it's just a very different audience. If I deliberately wanted to get something that was going to get a conversation brewing, lots of views, shares, likes, whatever, some type of engagement, I know exactly what to post on Facebook, and I can really, truly be myself to the nth degree, because these are people that over the years, I've been on there for so long, so if somebody didn't like what I was posting, they would have dropped me, blocked me, whatever you want to call it. But platforms that I'm newer to, TikTok I'm the newest on, I've only been on there a few months, and Instagram I'm maybe approaching a year on it. I don't quite have the patterns and algorithms figured out like I do on Facebook, but trial and error, TikTok, because I really don't care so much about it.
They always change the algorithms too.
They do.
The algorithms are a constant changing and they're a constant moving target. So something that I would love to dig deeper on, because TikTok is something I'm not, it's not my wheelhouse. I like Instagram, I like Facebook. They're the things that I use myself. So
you're comfortable with them.
You should use what you're comfortable with. TikTok's not really that, but I do see the value in reaching that wide audience.
Sure.
It's just how do you hook people? So I know some people on the panel, everybody on the panel was really good, but I don't know that we got the depth that I would love to have with everybody. So, if somebody wants to come on to a really bad podcast and answer some questions and we can go on to it, we're open to that. But I think that I would love to get deeper into this kind of stuff, because as a new agent, which, I would think that mostly new agents are going to be the ones watching us or looking at things. And what are the things that they should keep in mind when they're posting? And it's really this is what I would think they would do, is what's the avatar they're trying to reach? So if you don't know who you're trying to reach,
there's a problem, because
how do you hit them?
It's just spray and pray.
Yeah.
If you're looking for an actual answer to that, it's going to be accidental. Just keep changing direction until you find that something sticks. Course correction, trial and error can be a very useful tool. But if you see that you're doing the same thing repeatedly and it's not producing any type of desired result, then just drop it. Don't try to rack your brains and understand why it's not working. If you can figure it out, great. But otherwise, just stop. Don't repeat it if you're just getting repeated failures. We've hit some degree of success from just simple course correction and just not trying the same thing that has been proven to fail.
In fact, when you see somebody doing something, do the complete opposite.
Yeah.
Is really what it should be, because how many people are they're told to do something, and this is going to be my next point that I'm going to get into, and it kind of leads right into it, but everybody's told you got to get on, you got to post. People that have been in the industry for 30 years, I got to get on Facebook, I got to post. I got to come up with a posting schedule. All right, cool, now you're posting a schedule, what are you posting?
Right. So I had the most isolated opinion on this when I spoke in the panel. There was 7 of us total on the panel, and everybody's talking about their posting schedules. So, and everyone's like, oh, I do 2 to 3 times a day. I do a story at 5 a.m. and then I do post to my wall at noon, and then I do this at 5 p.m. That's all fine and good. I personally, and again, this is not knocking anyone else's thing, because you got to do what works for you. But for me, when I looked at some people are spending 4 hours a day on social media posts, well, my first thought is I don't have 4 free hours a day because I'm working. But that little bit of free time that I do have outside of servicing my real estate clients and managing the team and lead generation, I don't want to just ignore it and not post. But another thing is, if I feel like I'm painted into a corner and I have a gun to my head that I need to come up with a post, the quality is going to suffer. So I don't have the same frequency that other people do. But when I get an idea, and you can attest to this, I mean, it's sometimes I'll wake up at 2 in the morning with this burning idea of something that I have to get out, and there's a lot of emotion and feeling behind it, and there's a piece of me being portrayed in it. So even though my frequency is drastically less, and it could be days in between postings, it could be a week, to be quite honest with you, but when I put them out, it's quality over quantity. I make sure that it's something that is a true representation of some true facet of me, my personality, my life, my career, something.
So with that said, I'm going to get into what this is going on. So the thing I want to talk about is Facebook and social media, but typically Facebook. And because we're in the industry, we're friends. I don't know what percentage of my friends are real estate agents on Facebook. I'm sure it's a huge majority. I'm in the industry, so I search the stuff, so I see the people, I interact with their links, I see more of their stuff. I don't know if that's how it is for everybody in the general public. But Facebook is a wasteland, absolute wasteland for real estate content. And this is not at anybody in particular, but people are told to post. So what do you think they should post, or what do they do? So they go on there, they're like, oh cool, I want to post something that's either motivating or inspiring or things like that. So we find something that is somebody else said that's motivating. Great, I want to share that. I share it. Is that working for you? Like, does that do anything for you when you see that online? Because
no, it does nothing, because it's not your words. So all it is just recycling of someone else's post. Very rarely will I find something, and it's something that has to really hit home with me. But again, that's not going to happen according to a schedule. If something is compelling enough for me to want to repost it, it has to be something that was unique, something that was new, that was a fresh idea. Because what ends up happening, and again, this is just my opinion, is that when you post just to post, you become white noise, and all of a sudden now, nobody's going to pay attention to it, because now the perception is that your content is not worthy of taking the time to pay attention to it. Whereas I'd much rather be that artist that, okay, if I put something out, like, you're most likely going to like it, and creating a little bit of anticipation and suspense in between the posts, like, oh, what's he going to do now? Versus just posting, it's like talking just to hear yourself talk. If there's nothing meaningful to come out, eventually people are going to stop listening. Yeah. And it devalues yourself.
I mean, I think everybody does it with the best of intentions.
Sure.
You see things and it's rarely meant in any kind of derogatory way, but real estate, again, is a funny industry where we like to celebrate ourselves. So I think what it does is people are like, I need to post about things, so I have an open house, which is not saying don't post your open house, but it becomes white noise after you have 15 open houses.
Yeah.
So I have a few ideas that I like to get into as far as what can you post of value to somebody on social media that maybe would help them along the way. And I think that the main thing you have to ask is, who are you targeting, and then what's in it for them?
Yeah, you need to know what problem people have that you may be able to offer a solution to. That is going to be something of value to people. So that's where you really need to take a step back.
What's in it for me? Why should I care what you say? And the reason is because once you're like, oh, Tom, check this out, it might help you with this. So I think a real estate agent posting being like, hey, listen, I went through this deal, I found this thing that really helped me. Or I was going through this and I found it during an inspection, I found this. If you have a problem with your house, make sure you check out, the first thing I learned about was the roof.
Yeah.
The roof, the first, when you pull up, you look at the roof. See what kind of shingles are on it, see what kind of stuff's on there. So if you offer something of value, you're like, hey, check out the roof. This is what a good shingle, this is a bad shingle, this is what you want to look for, this is what I look for. If it helps you, great. If not, that's cool too. Thanks for taking a couple seconds. That's something of value you're giving. Whereas just trashing a roof is not helping anybody.
Right.
And post about nobody wants to hear why everybody else sucks. What's wrong with this? What's wrong with that? You can do it and do it in a funny rant style, because I've been known to rant. But general ideas, you want to be as specific as possible to who you're trying to help. So if your market is the luxury market, what are the luxury problems that they come across?
Mo money, mo problems.
Biggie did say it best.
That's the biggest problem.
That's actually the best way. Every time there's a wedding song, they ask you, it's that or Was Not Was, Walk the Dinosaur. Mm-hmm. You got to pick one or the other. But that's kind of where I stand. I mean, like I don't have too much else to add to it, but there is a lot to get into with it.
Yeah, I think another trap that I see a lot of people that are posting just to post fall into is they'll post something that's supposed to be some sort of credo that they need to live their lives by, but directly contradict it and publicly contradict it to the point where it's like, wait a minute, you're saying people shouldn't do X, Y, Z, but literally yesterday you just posted yourself doing that same X, Y, Z that you're telling people not to do today. So be careful of the advice that you give to people, especially if you're not following it yourself.
Yeah, I was actually at a really good meeting this week about branding, and something that hit me with it is like, I thought I know a lot about marketing, but branding is not really my thing. But when you ask them like, what's your brand? What do you do? It's not really what I say it is or what you say it is. It's what whoever is
the public
there
perception
says that I am. So like if I think that I am very informative, very helpful, and thoughtful, but the public thinks that I'm pompous, a jerk, and sees through my facade of trying to be helpful. Like that's what I really am.
Right.
It's not what I think I am.
Perception is reality.
Yeah.
That's ultimately what it comes down to.
So
it's what people think, and we're taught not to worry about what people think, but from a business perspective, what people think is directly tied to your bottom line. So in that situation, you should care what people think, because you can be right and your righteousness could lead to being broke. And if that's what you want, that's okay. But there's a balance.
Yeah, absolutely.
And not encouraging people to be fake by any stretch of the imagination. You still need to be sincere through it, but people's perception 1000% does matter when it pertains to business.
Absolutely. So something I want to get into. It's a segment because nobody watches this show. So we're trying to change that, but also nobody says anything or comments, and the only 2 followers are us right now. So we got to fix that.
We're literally having our own subscribers party.
Yeah, if you want to get in on this, you can ask us, but we have a section that I'm going to call Questions Nobody Ever Asked Us, because nobody asked us, and I stole these questions from people that did ask the questions. But I'm going to get your opinion on it anyway. I'm going to kick a couple ideas around. So a couple questions that were asked by new agents, 2 experienced agents, that we want to try to help them and come up with. So what do you think, first question, what's the biggest scam in lead gen, in your opinion, for a new agent starting out?
Well,
get brutal.
So I need to think about this. So most new agents usually are not going to spend much, if anything, on advertising.
Why?
Well, they don't have the money.
Okay. So what should they do?
So the next logical thing is, okay, how can I generate leads for free? Is the smart question that a brand new agent should be asking. Most new agents aren't going to start spending thousands of dollars a month on Zillow because it's usually not there. When I was a brand new agent, I started on the team, so I was getting leads from there. But separate from that, okay, let's say I wasn't on a team. Where do I get leads from without spending any money? Well, the biggest, most obvious one is this right here. You've got thousands of contacts in here that you can use as a starting point for lead generation. Second, equal to that is going to be your social media accounts. You're already posting anyway. So these are 2 things.
That you're posting up the platitudes and the generalities.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, not yet, because you're not a realtor yet. You don't start posting platitudes until you have a white Mercedes. And that's
step 2. That's step 2.
Yeah.
That's when you take them to the lot. You're like, hey, which one do you want? And they go to any other color but white. You're like, no.
Yeah.
But you didn't answer. So what's the biggest scam to like when people start out?
I would say some of the paid services out there.
Anybody you want to throw under the bus, or are you just going to leave it general?
There's plenty of them out there that we all know. Zillow has really gone sideways these days.
It depends on what you spend. If you're spending $200. You got to spend on it's pay to play.
If you're not spending 5 figures, it's not producing much of a return these days.
And also you have to have the structure below that to make Zillow worth it. But
right, a single agent, it's not going to work for unless you're throwing, like, again, 5-figure monthly spends at it.
So I think the biggest scam in lead gen when you start, people will sell you anything when you're an agent starting out because you're full of piss and vinegar, and you're going to change how real estate is done. Like, you're the difference. Like, everybody goes into it. I got into real estate because you can make money quick and you can make a lot of money. And I was like, oh, there's a lot of people doing this that they're like, I don't know how smart they are, but I can do better than that. And it's not easy. It's not an easy career. It is a full-time career you need to devote to. But the biggest scam, like, people will try to sell you stuff when you first get in. They try to sell you a website. A website for what? Like, nobody's going to see you. Nobody knows who you are.
Right.
They're not tracking you. They're like, oh, we need SEO. You need to get your SEO up so people can find you. Like, what are they searching? Like, nobody else has been searching for real estate in this section, so that's not going to help me either. The pay-to-play leads, if you can get them and work them, great. That gets you an in. You got to work those leads as you go through it. I think anything you pay for. So once you become an agent, like, I don't believe in paying for leads the first 6 months. I think you work your sphere, you work the people you know, and you don't pay for a lead for the first 6 months.
And also, too, as a brand new agent, if you haven't made a paycheck yet, you don't want to increase your overhead when you don't have a way to pay for it.
Exactly. But anybody that tries to sell you leads when you first start, tell them to get the fuck out. Don't buy it. You got your own stuff. And if you need help with that, you got to find a team or a person or a coach or a mentor or somebody that's in your life that's able to show you how to properly work a sphere. Don't just tell people to go to open houses or go work expireds or FSBOs, because that doesn't help anybody. What do you actually do? What do you say when you call a FSBO? Because they're going to hang up on you because you're the 700th agent that's called them.
And you're probably reading the same script that everyone else is reading from. So the second that you're doing what everyone else is doing, you're already failing. Words of wisdom, definitely to live by. Whatever everyone else is doing, you need to set yourself apart somehow so that you stand out.
Yeah. So, next question that nobody asked us. We can go through a couple of these. A couple of these are very general. We kind of got into a little bit there. But what are the biggest mistakes you saw agents make with lead gen? We kind of got into that a little bit. Like, you'll overpay for leads. You're not getting the quality. You think it's not quality, but really any lead you get, everybody you talk to is a lead. It's just, when are they going to buy the house? And then are they going to think of you? Or are they going to be like, oh, I meant to think of you, but I thought of somebody else because they were there when they thought of it.
So that you mentioned one that personally I had a nasty sting from is
somebody ignored you?
Yeah. No, I ignored somebody, a lot of somebodies. Specifically past clients. I hit a point in my career that I was so busy with new business that I completely neglected past clients. And after doing a little bit of digging, I had found that a pretty substantial number of these people needed a realtor again from the time that I transacted with them and the present. And I'd found that from just not keeping in touch with people, that the next time that they needed an agent, like, I was forgotten. And it wasn't because of anything that I did wrong. Like, the transactions were great, but just by simply not keeping in touch with people. And again, that's where I circle back to this thing here. When you're speaking to people, and it doesn't matter if it's someone that you've done a transaction with before or not, just reach out and just check in on people. You got
to do it in the right way. Like, I mean, like, you have a phone, and like, people always say that, like, hey, reach out to your phone, reach out to your social media network. Like, how do you do, like, what's the correct way to really reach out to somebody?
Well, it can't be about real estate. It's got to be about them.
It's got to be authentic.
Yes, it can't be about you. You're not calling them with the intention of, hey, do you need a realtor? Like, you're gonna find yourself blocked on a lot of people's phones.
It's like, hey, do you want a mortgage? It's like, no, I don't want a mortgage, but I love a new house.
Click.
Yeah, I love a new house. I love a new easy way to do. Like, I'd love to consolidate all my debt into one little thing and not have to pay it.
Yeah,
it's great. But nobody leads with that. They're like, hey, do you want a mortgage? No, I don't care about a mortgage. I care about a realtor. I want the house.
So when reaching out to people, it's just, think of it as you lost touch with a friend that you haven't spoken to in a couple of years. What would you say to them when you're calling up because you just generally care about how they're doing, what's new in their lives?
What would you say? So you got a new friend, or a friend that you haven't seen since high school.
I want to catch up with them. I want to find out, what new things are going on in their lives. Are they, if they were single, are you seeing anybody? Are you married?
Trying to get,
Yeah. If you're newly married, do you have any kids? Where you working? I just want to learn. I just want to find out about them. All of the normal questions that I would ask somebody in getting caught up with somebody. There's no new questions there.
I always I like to reach out when I haven't talked to somebody in a long time. And I love everybody that's on my Facebook friend list. I love you guys. Like, you guys are great. I don't know if I've talked to you in the last 10, 15, 20 years, however long Facebook's been around now. But when I reach out, I like to address the elephant in the room. Like, we don't talk, but I know everything about you. Because people tend to post a highlight reel. Be like, that's awesome. I saw you did that. Post something where you can interact back and forth, and then compliment them on something that's not something they're doing in their life. You know what I mean? Like something they're successful with, thinking about, you admire. Like, you can always find things like that to connect with people.
And that's certainly a cheat code to connecting with people, is that they're literally giving you what's important in their lives by posting it. Because if it wasn't important to them, why would they post it? Unless they're posting just to post.
Well, reach back out to them and be like, it's a great day to rise and grind.
Circle
I saw
of life
that post
there.
and it really changed my life. Like, now you sound like a bot.
Yes.
You sound like an absolute AI bot that people are going through.
Right, because it's not coming from you. You're just it's the equivalent of reply all in an email.
And then kind of figuring out like how you can help them in their life. Be like, oh, that's awesome. Like, have you ever thought of it? Like, you don't necessarily have to help everybody, but if there's a spot where you can connect a problem and fix the problem, you don't have to do it. Just connect the bridge for them.
Sure.
That's what you want to do. You want to be known as that person.
And people remember these things. I recently ran into somebody at the gym that needed a refinance. Yes, a spot. That it was a refinance situation, and wanted to clear up some debt.
Did you tell them to rise and grind?
I did. I'm like, rising and grinding solves everything, and connected them with a loan officer to solve their problem. And this individual was extremely gracious, extremely appreciative, and thought that I was going to have a part in the solution of his problem. I'm like, no, I have nothing to do with it other than just placing you in front of the person that is the solution to your problem. And the person felt bad that like there was no compensation to me. And I said, look, I'm not doing anything, so this isn't something that I should even be compensated for. And I said, if you really, want to do something, if the next time you know someone, either you or anybody else that you know that needs a realtor, just call me. Otherwise, I'm happy that I can help.
You're doing my New Year's resolution right now. The New Year's resolution I made is to help 100 people this year through no fault of my own, just connect 100 people with problems to 100 people with solutions. And just make the connection for them.
Sure.
Because if you can do that throughout the year, I feel like the reciprocity law is going to come back to you. Like, it's not like, oh, what do you get from this? You're not helping it. You're helping people solve a problem.
You're putting good energy into the universe.
Yeah, but you're helping people solve that problem.
Yeah.
And then when you help them solve it, they don't, even though you didn't do anything, mentally they connect you with helping them solve that problem.
Right. And you are now becoming a professional because any situation that they have, well, not any, but some situations that they have, you're able to bring the resolution to. So people will repeatedly go back to those sources, and eventually it's going to be a real estate problem that involves buying or selling a house.
So, question for you now. Third question. This is going to be the last one for now. But now that when you became an agent, what was the biggest surprise misconception that you had from before you were an agent to once you came over to this side of the table? After you became an agent and went through a couple transactions, what's the biggest surprise or biggest shock or like the thing that you would tell people that aren't agents right now that would shock them when they come on board?
That's a tough one. I remember before I had worked with a single client, I was just calling phone numbers. I was sending emails out to people. And I remember hearing this conversation about like listing appointments and buyer consultations. And early on, I just thought if somebody responds to me, they're my client. And I guess what I realized is that without training and coaching, any person that I was speaking to that would have been deemed a potential client, they were like a cold lead, whether it was like for a listing or a buyer, at the I didn't lose any of them. So I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, I don't understand the sales aspect of it. It's not like you're selling a car and you're hoping that person is going to buy or not buy. So it was a different mentality that they were, in my mind, I'm like, I don't understand where there's an actual sale, because it's a question of if they're going to use me or use somebody else. So for me, I just did what was natural and just made emotional connections with people. And through that, I educated people in my knowledge and in what I can bring to the table for them, and how I was going to make sure that this was just a seamless, silky smooth transaction. And for me, the way that I established that relationship with all of my clients, it didn't matter if they were buyers or sellers, was them seeing that I've got emotion in the game. Like my skin in the game was emotion of concern that they're going to enjoy and love the experience. So I guess in a sense that is making the sale.
So, so that's what surprised you from coming before to after?
Yes, that people had difficulty making those connections with people. And I guess because just by default, I care. In my mind, I'm like, well, there must be agents out there that give a perception that maybe they don't care, that somebody would not want to work with them.
Definitely.
So that was really surprising to me, because I just, people would, I'd be leaving the building to go meet with someone, and someone would say, good luck. And I'm like, with what? My objective was just not to piss the person off that I was going to meet. So I guess and still to this day, I still have a hard time wrapping my head around that.
I mean, to me, one of the biggest surprises was the people who you think, like when you get into real estate, again, you're like, oh, I have these 5 people that I'm thinking of. They bought a house last year. They might buy from me. The people who you think will use you don't. And the people who you don't think will use you do. And that's not a hard and fast rule. Like I have so many people that I owe all my success to. But sometimes you're like, oh, this is a really close friend. They're definitely going to use me. And they're like, oh, no, I'm really tied to my aunt's mom's uncle who has done this for 70 years and is going to show me on weekends. Like, I'm really tied to this guy.
Yeah.
Why? And it's because, like, that's not really the question. It's like they don't trust you enough yet. And also, sometimes you shouldn't work with people who you're super close with. And don't take it personally if you don't.
Right. So I can speak of situations where I've been the other agent in this example, where the side piece. So there's been times where people deliberately did not want to use someone that they knew too well or that was family, because there could have been sensitive factors about the transaction that they didn't want the family to have any insight in. So they did that to create more separation between like a sensitive situation and their family being in their business. And that has nothing to do with that agent that is feeling like they were slighted, but it's also not the agent's business to pry about it either. So sometimes you don't always know the full story. So I would say just don't beat yourself up too hard about it, because when you are that other agent in the situation, then you'll very quickly come to realize why it had nothing to do with you other than just the client had some privacy or something that they wanted to keep
there's always some kind of thing that's in there. And like, I was just surprised when I first came on board that like all the family that I was like, oh, my family's absolutely going to buy things for me. But they're truly like, if I had another family member that did it, like there's other people that are in the field that they already know.
Yeah.
If you look around and you swing your hand and hit 10 people in a store, 8 of them are real estate agents.
Yeah. We're like multiplying like zombies.
It's insane. So like everybody's an agent. So how do you stand apart? And it's don't get bent out of shape if people don't use you. Use the people who you attract and actually work for.
Right.
So now this we're going to end this here shortly. But the last section, which I love this section, is what grinds my gears this week, because it gives us a chance to complain and put out negativity. And it's at the end of the show, so if you watch it to this point, you either really like us, hey mom, again, or you just hate yourself.
Or you're taking a really long poop and you just didn't find something better to watch.
You can't reach the phone. It's like too far away, and you're like, oh God, make it stop. Or you're asleep by now. So either way. But either way, so what grinds my gears this week? Omar, go first. If you have something, have you thought about it, or you want me to go?
People posting about don't be negative, and they're just constantly posting negative things.
Don't be fucking negative, Omar.
It's usually the people that are negative that are posting the don't be negative platitude.
Okay.
It's a big contradiction that's out there. And like, you'll never see me post don't be negative, but I'm also not going to post anything negative either, because then you're just going to attract negative stuff.
You got to be a little polarizing. Like, you have to have it like not a general opinion to get anybody to look at it. If I'm like, I like breathing. Nobody cares, because everybody likes breathing.
Yeah.
But if you think of something different and you're like, oh, I'm going to take the opposite side, it's the contrarian side. Like, that's what you're trying to get people to engage for the sake of arguing the other side.
Right. Like, if I really want to create polarization and pivot left when the whole world is going right, I'll just say something bold like, I like cats.
Don't start with me on the cats. That's not what drives me crazy.
You can't spell homeowner with that meow.
You can't. And I'm not going to take this cat abuse. Cats are awesome animals. They are up there, even with dogs now, in my mind.
Is that why your name's Tom Cat City?
I want to post a picture at some point. But what drives me crazy this week, I don't know why, and it's been driving me a little crazy for a while, but as a realtor, you get so many calls from people, and I love the little feature that says, like, potential spam, because it's absolute spam, and you always hit the button, F you, we're done. I'm not answering that. But we also get a bunch of calls from other people, solar companies, Medicare companies, anybody that has your name and number out there that thinks they can get to you, they're going to put it through. Unbeknownst to me, I didn't sign up for it, I didn't ask for it, I have no interest in it. And it boggles my mind that they have these bots that, like, you pick up the phone, you're like, hey, like, whatever you say, and it's a beep.
Silence.
No, it's silence, and then it's the little beep where you hear it kick on, and 9 times out of 10, it's not even a person. It's a bot. And you hear, like, hello, Tom, how are you doing? I'm like, you have 3 seconds from a cold, like, as a cold call in general, like, when we're cold calling people, we're going in with the anticipation to help, and still going to get hung up on. It just happens. But if you get on a call and you're a bot, and you say, hello, Tom, how are you? And if I sit there and answer to the bot, I'm great, how are you doing? Great. And then they launch into whatever it is. Drives me crazy. Like, and it's such a waste of money, time, expense. Like, I just don't understand what percentage of people will answer these calls. There's no interest gained.
Salespeople do.
Like, nobody answers these calls, though. Like, they're like, or you're like, I'm not interested, and they just keep launching into the pitch. They haven't asked anything about you. So and next time you get one of these calls, take it a little bit further, take it to the limit, and listen to what they say, and listen to why they suck at sales, and why nobody converts. And this is why solar companies are going under, things like that, because there's no authentic engagement. They don't really care about you. Somebody reaches out to you. We get emails like this all the time. Somebody asked me to reach out to you. X person wants to speak with you. No, they don't, because they're not speaking to me.
Yeah.
They didn't reach out to me. They don't care. It's inauthentic, and you're off my list. Huh. So, cold calls are worse.
Yeah, so learn what not to do.
Like that.
Yeah.
So.
It's definitely a great way to learn what not to do.
Also, I don't know if we've noticed, but I've been using this Gatorade bottle as a water bottle, which nothing says class, like refilling an empty water bottle. So, anything else you want to get into this week? Anything coming up? Anything big? Meetings, thoughts, ponderings?
In all seriousness, obviously our take is very snarky here. Where we're filming is the new office of the Din Real Estate Group. It's 145 Trent Road in Blackwood, New Jersey, right on the corner of Trent Road and Egg Harbor Road.
They don't even have water bottles here. Don't come.
They do. We have a few in the room. We do have a refrigerator. It's a little boiler room in here. We're actually waiting for a furniture delivery today. But that being said, we're fully functioning. And if anybody, I don't care if you're a team leader, you're a broker owner, you're a new agent, you're thinking about getting your real estate license, you're in title, you're in mortgage. If you ever want to just sit and shoot the shit with us, brainstorm, ask questions, whatever.
We're not begging for guests on this podcast.
No, but we're always happy to have you. If you'd like to come on to the podcast and
Maybe.
literally have nobody watch you except for me and him because there's 2
And my
subscribers.
mom.
She didn't subscribe.
No, but she doesn't know how to either.
Just excuses. We're always happy to sit and talk with people.
Awesome. And we got some cool stuff coming out for everybody, so it's not just going to be, the stupid jokes and snarky comments that we have here. We do have some tangible
That's
stuff.
going to stop?
No, it can't stop. But we do have some tangible stuff that we want to be able to give out to people if you watch it, if you see it. And like we said, we committed to at least 5 of these shit shows. So this is week 2. We'll see what happens next week. I mean, we'll definitely be releasing it, and we'll see what happens. So if you got any comments, please leave them.
Smash that like button.
No.
Share. Subscribe.
This thing's done.